America is carrying $36 trillion in debt. The number alone doesn't matter. What matters is the pattern hidden beneath it, a pattern that has appeared before every major currency collapse in history. Rome ignored it. Spain dismissed it. Britain discovered it too late. And right now, America is following the exact same path. Asterisk. This isn't theory. This isn't speculation. This is what always happens when empires believe their currency is permanent. And by the end of this story, the pattern will be undeniable. Asterisk. Let's start with Rome. Not the military might. Not the conquests. The money. Asterisk. In the year 64 AD, the Roman denarius contained 95% pure silver. Citizens trusted it completely. Merchants across 3 continents accepted it without question. The currency was the empire's backbone. Asterisk. But Rome had a problem. Constant wars. Expanding borders. Expensive armies stationed everywhere. The treasury couldn't keep up with spending. Asterisk. The solution seemed simple. Reduce the silver content. Just a little. Citizens wouldn't notice. Trade would continue. Nothing would change. Asterisk. By the year 100 AD, the denarius was 85% silver. Still trusted. Still accepted. Asterisk. By 200 AD, it was 50%. B. 260 AD, it was 5%. The same coin. The same name. But almost no actual value. Asterisk. Here's what happened next. Merchants noticed. They started demanding more coins for the same goods. Prices doubled. Then triple. Then exploded. Asterisk. Soldiers were paid in worthless currency. They stopped fighting. Borders collapsed. Trade networks fractured. Asterisk. Rome didn't fall to barbarians. Rome fell because its money died first. Asterisk. And here's the critical detail most people miss. The collapse wasn't sudden. It was slow, gradual, almost invisible. Until at WASN, WOTS, T. Asterisk. Citizens kept using the currency. Markets stayed open. Daily life continued. But trust was eroding underneath, silently, steadily. Asterisk. When trust finally broke, everything collapsed at once. Asterisk. Now consider Spain. In the 16th century, Spain controlled the world's largest empire. Gold and silver poured in from the Americas. Ships arrived monthly, loaded with treasure. The Spanish crown seemed invincible. Asterisk. But the wealth created a dangerous illusion. Spain believed it could spend without limits. Wars across Europe. Lavish palaces. Massive military campaigns. Asterisk. Revenue couldn't keep pace with spending. So Spain borrowed heavily. Asterisk. By 1557, Spain declared bankruptcy. It couldn't pay its debts. Asterisk. The solution. Print more money. Devalue the currency. Inflate the debt away. It worked temporarily. Then it happened again. Another bankruptcy in 1560. Then 1575. Then 1596. Then 1607. Spain defaulted 6 times in 70 years. Each time, the crown promised reforms. Each time, spending continued. Each time, the currency weakened. Asterisk. Foreign merchants stopped accepting Spanish currency. Trade declined. The economy contracted. The empire that once controlled half the world slowly faded into irrelevance. Asterisk. The gold from the Americas didn't save Spain. It destroyed Spain. Because easy money convinced leaders that economic laws didn't apply to them, they were wrong. Now shift to Britain. By the early 20th century, the British pound was the world's reserve currency. Global trade happened in pounds. Central banks held pounds. The currency was as trusted as gold. Asterisk. Britain's dominance seemed permanent. The empire spanned a quarter of the globe. London was the financial capital of the world. Asterisk. Then came to world wars. Massive military spending. Debt that exploded beyond control. Asterisk. Britain printed money to cover the costs. The pound weakened. Asterisk. After World War II, Britain was victorious but bankrupt. The pound was no longer backed by gold. Trust began to erode. Asterisk. Countries started shifting reserves into dollars. Trade moved away from pounds. Britain's global influence declined rapidly. Asterisk. By 1976, Britain had to be bailed out by the International Monetary Fund. The nation that once ruled the seas needed financial rescue. Asterisk. The pound still exists, but it's a shadow of what it was. Britain didn't lose its currency. It lost what made the currency valuable. Global trust. Asterisk. 3 empires, 3 currencies, 3 collapses. and one pattern running through all of them. Asterisk, but here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the same pattern is unfolding right now. In America, asterisk, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency since 1944. Oil is priced in dollars. International trade happens in dollars. Central banks hold dollars as reserves. Asterisk. This gives America an extraordinary advantage. It can borrow more cheaply than any other nation. It can run massive deficits without immediate consequences. It can print money and export the inflation to the rest of the world. Asterisk, for decades, this system seemed unbreakable. The dollar was synonymous with stability, with trust, with power. But something is changing, quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. Countries are starting to shift away. Asterisk, in 2000, the US dollar accounted for 71% of global currency reserves, an overwhelming majority. Asterisk, by 2020, that number dropped to 59%. Asterisk, today, it's closer to 55%. Asterisk, that might not sound dramatic, but in currency markets, small shifts signal massive changes ahead. Asterisk, central banks don't reduce dollar holdings because they want to. They do it because they're losing confidence. Asterisk, consider what's happening right now. Asterisk, China and Russia are conducting trade in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar entirely. Asterisk, Saudi Arabia is discussing oil sales in yuan. The petrodollar system that has existed for 50 years is cracking. Asterisk, India is buying Russian oil in rupees. Brazil is trading with China in yuan. Asterisk, Russia, India, China, South Africa are openly discussing a new reserve currency, one that isn't controlled by America. Asterisk, these aren't small economies. Combined, they represent over 40% of the global population and a quarter of world GDP. Asterisk, if they succeed in creating an alternative system, the dollar's dominance ends. Asterisk, but America's leaders seem unconcerned. Spending continues. Debt grows. The money printer runs. Asterisk, in 2008, U.S. national debt was $10 trillion. By 2020, it was $27 trillion. Today, it's $36 trillion. Asterisk, debt is growing faster than the economy. Much faster. Asterisk, interest payments on that debt now exceed military spending. America is borrowing money just to pay interest on previous borrowing. Asterisk. This is the same cycle that destroyed Rome, the same trap that caught Spain, the same mistake Britain made. Asterisk. When debt grows faster than the economy, there are only two options: default or inflate. Asterisk, America won't default. That would destroy global markets instantly. Asterisk. So the only option left is inflation. Print money. Reduce the debt's real value. Make dollars worth less. This is already happening. In 2020, the Federal Reserve printed more money in a few months than it had in the previous century. Asterisk. Trillions of dollars created from nothing, pumped into the economy, justified as emergency pandemic relief. Asterisk, the immediate effect. Asset prices soared. Stocks surged. Real estate skyrocketed. Asterisk, but the long-term effect. The dollar's purchasing power declined. Asterisk. What cost $1 in 2020 now costs $1.20, and that's using official numbers. Real inflation is likely higher. Asterisk, savings accounts lose value. Wages fall behind prices. The middle class shrinks. Asterisk. This is how currency debasement works. Slowly at first, then faster, then all at once. Asterisk. Rome's denarius took 200 years to collapse. Spain's currency took 70 years. Britain's pound lost dominance in 30 years. Asterisk, how long does America have? Asterisk. Here's where the psychology becomes critical. Because currency collapse isn't just about numbers. It's about belief. Asterisk, a dollar bill is just paper. It has no inherent value. Its value comes entirely from collective trust. The belief that others will accept it. The belief that it represents something real. Asterisk, when that belief breaks, the currency dies. Asterisk, and belief doesn't collapse slowly. It snaps suddenly. Asterisk, Rome's citizens used the denarius for decades after it was debased, until one day they didn't. Asterisk, Spain's merchants accepted devalued currency for years until they refused. Asterisk, Britain's pound was trusted globally until laws asterisk. The transition isn't gradual. It's a shift, a tipping point, a moment when enough people lose faith that the system can't recover. Asterisk. America hasn't reached that point yet, but the signs are appearing. Asterisk, countries are diversifying reserves. Gold purchases by central banks hit record highs. Bitcoin and other alternatives are gaining legitimacy. Asterisk. These aren't random events. They're signals. Indicators that trust is weakening. Asterisk. And once trust starts to erode, because currency value is a collective belief. When enough people doubt, everyone doubts. Asterisk. The pattern is now clear. Empires collapse when they violate one fundamental rule: create more value than consumed. Asterisk. Rome stopped creating. It only extracted. Asterisk. Spain stopped producing. It only spent. Asterisk. Britain stopped innovating. It only managed. Asterisk. America is following the same path. Borrowing instead of producing. Printing instead of creating. Managing decline instead of driving growth. Asterisk. The economy isn't collapsing yet, but the foundation is cracking. Debt compounds. Deficits widen. The currency weakens. Asterisk. Most people don't notice. Daily life continues. Stores stay open. Markets function. But underneath, trust is eroding. Slowly, invisibly. Here's the part that matters most. Currency collapse doesn't start with the currency. It starts with trust. Asterisk. When Rome debased, the denarius, trust broke first. Then prices exploded. Asterisk. When Spain defaulted repeatedly, trust disappeared. Then the empire faded. Asterisk. When Britain printed money after the wars, trust shifted to America. Then the pound lost dominance. Asterisk. Trust is the invisible foundation. When it cracks, everything else follows. Asterisk. And right now, global trust in the dollar is weakening. Asterisk. America still has advantages. The largest military, the strongest economy, the most innovative companies. Asterisk. But those advantages won't save the currency if trust collapses. Because currency isn't backed by military might. It's backed by belief, and belief can vanish overnight. So what happens next? Asterisk. If history is any guide, America faces a choice: reform or decline. Asterisk. Reform means reducing debt, cutting spending, restoring fiscal discipline, rebuilding trust. Asterisk. But reform is painful. It requires sacrifice. Politicians avoid it. Citizens resist it. Asterisk. Decline is easier. Keep borrowing. Keep printing. Maintain the illusion until the illusion breaks. Rome chose decline. Spain chose decline. Britain tried reform too late. Asterisk. What will America choose? Asterisk. The answer isn't clear yet. But the pattern is. Asterisk. Every empire believes it's different. Every empire thinks the rules don't apply. Every empire assumes its currency is permanent. Asterisk. And every empire learns the same lesson. Eventually. Asterisk. Here's the final piece. The one thread connecting every collapse. Asterisk. Global trust breaks first. Then the currency collapses, not the other way around. Rome's denarius didn't fail because it contained less silver. It failed because people stopped trusting it. Asterisk. Spain's currency didn't collapse because of bankruptcy. It collapsed because merchants refused to accept it. Asterisk. Britain's pound didn't lose dominance because of war debt. It lost dominance because the world stopped believing Britain could maintain stability. Asterisk. Trust is the invisible currency, more valuable than gold, more powerful than armies. Asterisk. When trust exists, paper becomes money. When trust disappears, money becomes paper. Asterisk. America's dollar is still trusted, but that trust is no longer absolute. It's conditional. Fragile. Asterisk. Countries are preparing alternatives, not because they want the dollar to fail, but because they're no longer certain it won't. Asterisk. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Once preparation begins, failure becomes more likely, because hedging against collapse signals doubt, and doubt spreads. Asterisk. If enough countries shift reserves, the dollar weakens. If the dollar weakens, more countries shift reserves. The cycle reinforces itself. Asterisk. This is how trust dies. Not suddenly, gradually, then all at once. Asterisk. America isn't Rome. It isn't Spain. It isn't Britain. Asterisk. But the pattern is identical. Debt rising faster than growth. Currency losing purchasing power. Global confidence declining. Asterisk. The question isn't whether America can collapse. History proves any empire can. Asterisk. The question is whether America will recognize the pattern before it's too late. Asterisk. Rome didn't. Spain didn't. Britain barely did. Asterisk. Will America? Asterisk. The signs are visible. Debt exploding. Deficits widening. Inflation rising. Reserves shifting. Asterisk. But signs aren't destiny. They're warnings. Opportunities to change course. Asterisk. Reform is still possible. Fiscal discipline is spending cuts. Debt reduction. rebuilding trust, but reform requires courage, leadership, sacrifice. History shows most empires lack those qualities when they need them most. Asterisk. So here's where we are. America is carrying $36 trillion in debt. Global trust in the dollar is eroding. Countries are preparing alternatives. Asterisk. The same pattern that destroyed Rome, that collapsed Spain, that ended Britain's dominance. Asterisk. The pattern is trust. And trust, once broken, cannot be easily repaired. Asterisk. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. Because those who understand history don't repeat it. They prepare for it. Asterisk. Currency collapses happen slowly, then suddenly. The time to prepare isn't after trust breaks. It's before. Asterisk. Rome's citizens didn't see it coming. Spain's leaders dismissed the warnings. Britain realized too late. Asterisk. America still has time. But time is finite, and the pattern is clear. Asterisk. Global trust breaks first, then everything else follows. Subscribe to Past a Profit for more deep dives into history, power, and money.